Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's the J Gemini. Tonight I actually wanted to make a quick little video. First impressions review sort of thing. Just got my second poke, by the way, so that's fun, I guess. Wristwatch check. Red Turtle. SRP C91. So yeah, today, taking a look at this. The coveted, very hyped, very sought after TRM or Three Rivers Manufacturing Atom. So today, we're just going to kind of do a brief overview and kind of address something that I have seen right up front. Alright, so anyways, first is actually size comparison. I didn't have any knives near me, so I just quickly paused, open it up. Here's a Delica. So a great knife to kind of compare the size. Very similar as well to the Para 3. So, you know, basically there, if you have either or. Here is a 93mm Pioneer. Closed and open. So, as you can see, not a small knife here. This knife is right about the size of your Para 2, Paramilitary 2, your Reptilian full size, you know, a lot of those sort of mid-size knives that are about 5.35 to 3.35 to 3.5 inches. Overall, here is it again, closed. So as you can see, even though there's quite a lot of blade length to play with, they've done a good job at pushing it right up to the end. Almost. There's a little bit, kind of like a pair of where instead of it going all the way to the end, because you actually come to here and have this little butt out, but it's not bad. And the deep carry clip actually kind of takes care of that in comparison to the Delica that only comes up to here and has all this. This comes right up to the end more. Speaking of that, let's look at thinness. Actually, let me look at this side. We'll take a look why at the end. So you can see that it's about dead on for the Delica with its thickness. So very thin knife. Weight is actually about the same. Well, that's a tieback spacer, so I guess it's not an accurate comparison, but it's lightweight, to be honest. Action feels really smooth. I kind of think of it like if the Sabenza was a little looser. It's very smooth action. And D10 is just perfect. It doesn't take a lot of effort, but it just sings. You can, it's really hard, you can flick it like that. Basically, I get just in between my nail and my thumb on this like little ridge, and then I just flick it. Again, that's just for fidgeting. That's not practical. If you took this with your knife and was just out of your pocket and just cut something really quick, that's less practical, just for fun. Ergonomics are pretty simple, kind of like a Sabenza, where you just have sort of these straight lines, right? I mean, these are curved, but you know what I mean. There's not like a lot of ultimate shaping going on like this, or like the Manix, where there's a lot of high points that force your hand into different things. You know, even though it's got like a little tiny area here for the choil cut out, and sort of here, you can sort of grab it up here, sort of grab it back here and put your finger in the notch, or you can sort of choke up a little bit like that. But nothing is really forcing your hand to do anything. I mean, even reverse grip, different grips are really comfortable. One thing I've noticed right away is there isn't any real jumping on this knife, which I like jumping myself. One thing I did like that a lot is I like slab-sided knives. It gives a sort of thinness, but they always sort of, even if they round off the ends, it sort of pokes you, like with a Para 3. On this, if you can actually tell, they've sort of sub-chamfered the edges. So even though you have this flat here, you have that big area and radius. And the cool thing is it actually grows. It's thinner up here than back here. And here, it goes sort of thin and then thick again and then sort of thins out. So there's just a lot of attention to details that kind of end up aiding to the whole design of the knife. And overall, the design of the knife is pretty slim and trim in the pocket. Edge thinness seems very thin, very reminiscent of something like your Delica. Just from first overview, it's 20 CV. You can't go wrong with that. And no lock stick. Lockup is full lockup, which I would actually like to say a little earlier. Just because that eye, even though it doesn't seem that close, that detent ball is close, you know? I mean, it would move so drastically slow, you know, but, you know, a 1/16 of an inch away from the edge or something like that just gets me a little worried, but I'm sure they have a great warranty either way. Pocket clip's great. It's this really dark titanium, looks really high quality, and it's just completely like bead blasted. And the finish here is like a really light stone wash. Kind of think of it like a Swiss Army knife blade that's like sort of that sub polish. So this is probably what I imagine what people talk about when they talk about like the Schliess buoy. Sort of having that semi-mirror finish. Just looks really nice and hides imperfections. And one thing I did notice that is a little bit of an issue is if you can look, there's a stop pin in the back and it's stop pin in the back here. Okay, hopefully that'll do a little better. Yes, it does. That isn't fully seated, and that goes all the way around the knife. So one cool thing about this knife that I thought was cool, pretty awesome, is the fact that you can change the scales in just, you know, very short time, which is fun if you buy multiple scales from the manufacturer or if anybody makes them aftermarket. And the cool part about this is they thought of this kind of like a watch, right? Where, you know, you have your main watch and it's all dialed in. If you change the watch straps on the watch, it doesn't mess up the time. You don't have to reset the time and the hour and the minute and the date and everything. Well, with a lot of knives, if you change the scales, you have to completely retune the action and reset everything, and it's just not the funnest situation, right? Some knives are even a little harder than others, a little bit more intimidating to get perfectly tuned. Well, what's special about it is 3 screws, and just a couple seconds later, and voila, the top comes off. That easy. Now there's a little tiny area here. It's rounded off, but I just wonder, is it not seated? So take something like this. I don't want to mess anything up, that's the only thing, but trying to see if it just wasn't seated or if something else is going on here. So maybe that I have a little bit more room to play. Yeah, it almost looks like they've beat that flat with like a hammer. So instead of it, I'm just gonna take off this side while I'm at it. These G11 scales are something else. I don't know why they're called G11 versus G10, but I love the jade clear scales. Clearly that's where the jade in the M390 came from. The jade in the name, came from, is actually the jades. I had a Para 3 that I customized with jade scales. That was kind of like my dream knife for the longest time. Para military too, not a Para 3. And that's where the sort of name came from. So I just have a thing for sort of those translucent scales, and especially this being a color that is not common at all. It's even cooler. So we're just gonna sort of open the knife up so we don't have to put a lot of torque into the chassis. Okay. Okay, just sort of rock back and forth and see what happens. Seems like, okay, it seems very tight. Think of it kind of like when you're taking off a barrel. That was the sound of terrible stuff. That was the sound of screws going on the floor. So, yeah. Be right back. Well, how fun. I literally lost a screw already. I found one, but who knows where the other, oh, it's on the bench. Okay, that's awesome. So excited about that. So anyways, back, I almost said back at the ranch, but I'm not Nick Shabazz, so I can't say that. So one kind of cool thing about this is the knife does actually perform by itself, technically. It's kind of unique. But that is the sort of specialness of everything, is the fact that you have this chassis quite robust with these standoffs and everything like that. And this is full titanium. And yeah, it's pretty cool. But this is the issue. As you can see, one side's flush, one side is definitely not. So, I'm trying to figure out the best way to go about this. If I could put these back on, have something to push, set this down on and push against. I don't really know the best way to go about this, honestly. It's like pinned in there. I don't have any pries. Okay guys, so I've tried for a couple of minutes, not gonna waste your time. That's definitely been flared out or sort of beaten with a hammer. So it's definitely like kind of forced in there. If I had something that I could hit it with, like a punch with a hammer or something like that, maybe it would sort of jar it loose. But I'm definitely not trying to break this, you know, at the end of the day. So here it is, just, you know, in real time. Not everything is perfect, hunky-dory. This is definitely an issue. I'm going to contact manufacturer about it. See what they recommend, go from there. But anyways, going back to what I was saying, the knife is just able to be put right back together like it was, no problems whatsoever, by just screwing in the screws that almost went missing. So I'm going to put those back. I'm not going to Loctite them just in case I am going to be taking things apart here very soon to try and get things back to center. Overall though, I mean, that is like a 1 in a million, and I think it's an easy fix. I don't think it's broken, right? So I'm not going to say, like, as far as quality control, I mean, when you have like rock lock up in front, or like there's so much tolerances in here that when you move the blade up and down, that the whole entire chassis shimmies. You know, I've had that on like a feldspar. Like, to me, that is lack of, you know, quality assurance and or, you know, quality control or whatever like that. Or when you have a blade that's warped. I had 2 of the Blade HQ exclusive, 2 Blade HQ exclusive Kaisers, the M390, and both of them were completely warped. Very excited about that because, you know, Jade, M390, I mean, you understand what's going on there. It's pretty easy to understand it. But basically, with that, I got one, was warped. Was like, wow, okay, let's try another one. Got another one, was warped. And then I was just like, that is not a great experience. And clearly, the multiple ones in the batch, if not every single one, had an issue. So I'm just not meant to have this knife. So, you know, that is not this type of problem, or not a type of problem where, like, things are not properly anodized from the factory or something very serious like that. This is, you know, minor. And I believe that it can be fixed with just some simple twerking. So, that is kind of interesting. Looks like it sort of rides on a system here that well, no, there we go, never mind. So it looks like it kind of has this interesting system. Oh, it does. That is interesting. Okay. So this is kind of an interesting thing. Very slight. Very, very slight. But it actually has an adjustable clip ride height. So if you want it fully seated, so you actually feel the back of the knife instead of the clip, you can push it forward ever so slightly. Or if you want it deep carry as possible, you can actually slide it up a little bit higher, and that actually goes ahead and takes and makes the clip as deep as possible, but it would dig into your hand a little bit. I really like that. I've never really seen anything like that. I feel like it's kind of nice to take and let the consumer say, hey, I want this way, instead of forcing you into just one way is the correct way. I think that's really, really trick. And of course, I like the fact that they sort of milled in where the clip goes, so you really don't have to worry about like left and right adjustment. You just sort of put it on, it's where it needs to be, right in the middle, to make the knife look as aesthetic as possible. And there's no real fuss, no real fight. So I thought that might be the case, but I was like, no, clearly not. Nobody would actually make an adjustable pocket clip. Well, you know, these guys did. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah, I'm just gonna push it all the way forward, but you definitely could let it ride up. Very interesting. But yeah, this knife, I think this is one of the things that, like, you don't need to necessarily reinvent the wheel to make a knife good, right? Like, this knife is very simple at its core. It's very similar to the Spyderco product with, you know, in the liners that are riding inside of the chassis, which I like, and the access bar cutout. Feels kind of like an amalgamation of like a rat and, you know, a paramilitary, para 3, para military 2. So overall, I think it's a great little knife. Is it necessarily worth the hype or the amount that people are paying for these knives? I'm not sure, right? I do think there's definitely a cool factor to be, you know, one guy in the room or in a forum that has this. And I just fell in love with this color as soon as I saw it. Missed the drop. Sold some stuff, had enough money, you know, got into this, and I'm happy. It's really nice. So I'll come in and do a little bit more of an in-depth review of, you know, cutting performance and what I figured out about this and just little things like that. But overall, I'm liking what I've seen so far, especially the smoothness of the action. It's just, I wasn't expecting that is the part that I thought I'd like the most, but definitely is a part that I enjoy. So I hope you guys enjoyed me sort of fumbling over and trying to find screws and all that stuff. Of course, I appreciate you taking time to go ahead and watch this video when there's so many other great content creators that you could end up going and watching. If you liked the video, please give a like, comment, and subscribe. Appreciate everybody watching. Take care. Peace.